So this is a possibility for a read aloud for Look Both Ways by Jason Reynolds. What's fun about this book is that it's 10 short stories, so you could read a short story at each of your read alouds and have a lot of rich discussion with this book, which is a really funny book, but also very poignant and teaches a lot of lessons to kids and will allow students to see themselves in the characters because each story is about everyday things, not really huge moments. And yet, woven throughout is this theme of friendship and family and just the pain that people experience on the day to day that you don't always see. So, to start us off, the very beginning of the book, of this short story we're going to talk about, is called The Low Cuts Strike Again. And it goes in through a description of what the kids are like. For example, they'd say, once they walked into a convenience store, one of the ones with the dish at the front of the counter that says, take a penny, leave a penny, and took all the pennies, leaving no pennies, a grab and get gone. They talk about a game that the low cuts play where they spin quarters on the table with an opponent, but it says, but the rules don't really matter to this crew. The opponent's quarter was getting pinched or the opponent was getting punched, and 25 cents ain't worth a swole up eye. So after reading this description to the students, which has some explanation of what the kids are like, the low cuts, what they call themselves, I would ask them, what do you assume about the low cuts? What kind of kids are they? What do you imagine they use the money they are stealing for? And then the big one is stealing okay. This part will be where I'll read about Bit, and here's a little bit about a description of him where it says, Bit was the tiniest person in their crew and the obvious leader. He was always going on and on about how his growth spurt was going to come soon and then he'd be the tallest, but nobody believed him. And even though Bit was half the size of his friends, he was the biggest when it came to confidence and when it came to temper. He was known for knocking people out. Then there's an example of a short story, a quick story of how he defended one of his friends and by punching a kid out. So then I would say, Bit is tough. Bit doesn't mess around. Bit will defend his brother even if it lands him in trouble. Any new traits to describe their leader? So at this point, the students are getting to know the character a little bit more. There's been some more revelations about how these friends interact, which goes a little bit deeper than just them pinching money, stealing money. And so I really want them to connect with Bit because by the end of the story, the kids will go through this interaction where they're taking money and buying things and then selling it for a higher price to a different population that would appreciate it more and pay more money than they did. And eventually we find out that he's buying ice cream for his mom who has relapsed. Her cancer has come back. And so he spent the entire day making money so that he could buy his mom an ice cream cone. And so the other low cuts are looking at him and they say this quote, the other low cuts watched Bit the hustler, Bit who could turn 90 cents into $9 into ice cream, turn into a son who was scared, a son who loved his mom. And I think that at this point with the students, you can talk about, what the deeper things that are going on in the hearts of their friends and themselves that people may be perceived as one thing on the inside, or on the outside, sorry, but on the inside, they have a lot going on that you don't even know. And so I think that this will lead to a real rich discussion in the classroom just about people.